we're going to get started. Welcome, everybody, for today's session. It is a hybrid session, so just to let you all know, we will be taking questions from both in person in the room, and we do have people join us virtually. So when you get a chance, just go ahead and scan that QR code to go ahead and join the chat. But it's going to be a great session, and we're going to try and take questions from both the audience, and then we're going to switch over to virtual, okay? All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get started.
Thank you so much. So, hey everyone, thanks so much for coming. This is the Developer Experience in Windows session. My name is Kayla Cinnamon. I'm a product manager here at Microsoft, former PM of Windows Terminal, now owning DevHome and also helping deliver PowerToys. And I'm here joined by my co-star, Sharla.
Hi everyone, my name is Sharla Soennichsen. I am also a product manager working on DevHome, focused on machine configuration and environments.
Cool. So our team has delivered a ton of awesome products for developers, including Windows Terminal. We have Windows Subsystem for Linux, bringing Linux and Windows closer together. We have DevHome, of course, and then we have PowerToys and WinGet as well on our team. And we work fully in the open, so we have a lot of community contributions that have made a lot of these features even better. And we're going to showcase some of those today as well. So for a quick agenda, the whole talk is demos, except for like one slide at the end. So we're going to go through some PowerToys updates, as well as some new features in DevHome. And then Charlotte's going to dive into environments at your fingertips within DevHome, as well as some improvements made to WinGet configuration. And then we're going to finish with some command line improvements, and then also a sneak peek slide at the end. And then we'll have resources for you. And of course, we can open it up for Q&A, so you can ask us anything at the end. So with that, let's just jump right over into the demos. So I'll switch over to the desktop. And here you can see I don't have anything open. This is typically what happens when you restart your computer, you get a Windows update, et cetera. I just have DevHome running down there and settings. So one feature that we're adding to PowerToys is this feature called Projects. I'm now in my workflow instantly. And I'm able to set a window layout that I can then have repeatable in any other project. So I'm able to just get into my project, into my task very quickly and get started.
That's all. Yeah, clap.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and what about, I frequently am using a laptop and I'll connect to it like a monitor or things like that. How does that work with this?
Yeah, exactly. So this actually works really well with multiple monitor scenarios, which is even more incentive to make multiple projects. If you go from work to home and you work on different setups, you can have different projects with different layouts and different screen resolutions, and then get started into your flow right away. So Projects is coming to PowerToys, and it's really, really handy. And the last thing that it does is command line arguments. So you can see in my terminal, I have a split pane. I have a command line argument saying, hey, open a PowerShell tab, split with a command prompt tab, and I can then customize the way that these apps open as well. So it's just going to help get you into your flow a whole lot faster.
That's awesome.
And speaking of PowerToys, we're trying to make them more accessible to users, and we can do that by helping bring them into Windows. And DevHome is the new utility we've delivered to developers in Windows, and it's meant to be your one-stop shop for everything that you need to get started with development. So that can be with setting up your machine, as well as a fully customizable dashboard, and it's also fully extensible. So we have GitHub extensions, we have an Azure DevOps extension, just to get all of your projects into Windows for you to work on. And you can also connect your developer account, so you can hook up your GitHub account, your GitHub Enterprise account, and if your Windows device is connected to work or school with Azure, it'll automatically pull those credentials for you, and then you're already signed in and you can get started right away. And the dashboard is one place that's fully extensible, and we have GitHub widgets, we have CPU and GPU widgets, there's Azure widgets as well, just to give you a deeper look into your projects without having to go over to those websites, and you can just get quick information right on Windows. So I know we were talking about PowerToys, and the way that we're bringing PowerToys to Windows is by delivering some of them into DevHome. This is a new feature that we're releasing today in the latest release of DevHome, and this is adding 3 utilities from PowerToys directly to Windows. Those being Host File Editor, Registry Preview, and Environment Variables Editor. So now these are available to you whether you have PowerToys installed or not, and then you can get started right away using these utilities. And we are, oh yeah, thank you. So we are open source, and this is a place where we would love feedback and contributions. Yes, we have these 3 utilities from PowerToys, but we want to know if there are other utilities you want to see delivered in Windows, along with any other things that might not be PowerToys. definitely let us know either here or on our GitHub as well.
Yeah. And speaking of extensibility in DevHome, I want to talk about this new environments page. So this is a relatively new page within DevHome that provides extensibility when it comes to accessing, configuring, and creating your environments. So as you can see on this page, I actually have a combination of Microsoft dev boxes, which are cloud PCs, and local VMs like the Hyper-V environment. So the environments page allows you to bring together all of those different environment types that you need to use throughout your day and brings them all into this one place for launching. So as you can see here, I have the ability to launch my dev box. I have my RDP client configured as the Windows app, and so it's going to launch with the Windows app. If I didn't have that, it could just launch in a browser. So as you can see, I've got my dev box here. The great thing about dev boxes is that they come pre-configured, so I've got a lot of the tools that I need already, such as Visual Studio Code and DevHome and things like that. So with the environments page, in addition to launching your existing environments, you can also create new environments. So here, like I mentioned, these are extensible, so I already have the Hyper-V extension installed, as well as the Microsoft Azure extension that enables the DevBox functionality here.
Do we have plans for any more extensions and more environment types?
Yeah, we definitely do. So like I said, this is extensible, and so we've been partnering with other teams to provide additional extension types. And if you don't see any of the extensions or environments that you're working on, we're open source and would love you to contribute additional environment types. So here, I'm just going to create a new machine, and then I can select from these Hyper-V quick create environments. I can see additional information about them. I know this Ubuntu one is pretty small, so we're going to go ahead and get that started here and create that environment. And then I can go back to the environments page and see that that new machine is being created. In addition to creating those machines, I also have the ability through the machine configuration to now configure my existing environments. So here, it's going to show that sort of similar list here. I'm going to select my dev box, if I can click on this trackpad, and select here. So what I can do is, if you're familiar with the machine configuration flow, I can clone repositories here, as well as select applications. This is another spot where there is extensibility within DevHome. So as you can see, I have the game development extension installed. This is provided by the Xbox team at Microsoft, and this is to help game developers get set up as well. And so you can select and install all of those applications in one go. Kayla just demonstrated some awesome stuff in PowerToys. So I want to be able to have PowerToys installed in my environment as well. So here I have the ability to review my setup details, so I can have my repository cloned and my applications installed. But what I'm actually going to do here as well is generate a configuration file. So configuration files are a WinGet configuration file, and this allows you to specify all of the sort of ideal state that you want on your machine. I'm going to save this as a YAML file, and then if I want to repeat this setup of cloning a repo and installing an application on another machine, I can do that here. So I've generated that configuration file, and then I'm going to kick off the setup of my dev box. So now it's going to go and it's going to install PowerToys in that dev box, as well as clone that repository that I specified.
Cool, very nice.
Yeah, and let me show you that configuration file as well that I just generated while that's running. So over here, we can see I have this configuration file, and you'll notice it's a .winget file. .winget files are relatively new, and they actually allow you to associate it with either the WinGet client, so you can run your configuration files automatically in the command line, or you can choose to associate it with DevHome, and it'll launch with DevHome and give you this new view to automatically run that configuration file. So as you can see, it's installing PowerToys, and it's also going to install Git because that clone experience is using the Git DSC resource which does require Git. And so DevHome, when it's generating that configuration file, will automatically add Git into your configuration file, just ensuring that your configuration actually applies properly. And hopefully in just a second, it's pulling down additional information from the PowerShell DSC gallery. So configuration files, as you can see, were in YAML, but we have this new summary view to allow you to see all of the steps that your configuration file is going to do at a glance. We can see it's going to install PowerToys, install Git, and clone DevHome, and we can see additional information about what module is going to be actually doing that work.
I have to say, I do love the summary view, especially because looking at those DSC files, there's a lot going on. And being able just to see the one-liner of it's installing this, it's cloning this, I think that's really handy, and I'm glad that you've helped add it to DevHome. I think this is awesome.
Yeah, it makes it really easy to get started with configuration files.
Mm-hmm.
So we will go back and check on that configuration, and it looks like it completed, so we can jump back into my dev box, and hopefully we can see that PowerToys has been added. So that's great. So I know I love using environments, and I know you've mentioned you've been using the environments a little bit. Oh, and we can see that the new machine was created.
Wow, that's awesome.
So yeah, have you been using environments much?
Yeah, I have. So we did add environments as an experimental feature in our last release, and now it's out of experimentation. But I've been using it pretty much every day because we work on Windows, and we have different branches of Windows to test different Windows features. And rather than repaving our whole machines, working in virtual machines is a whole lot easier. So I tend to use environments for those sorts of testing scenarios, and I can see all of them here, which is really handy. And I actually have a VM with some secret sauce in it that I love to show everyone. So let me just sign in really quick. And this is coming soon to Windows, but it's a private build that we've got, and it has some improvements to File Explorer. So we did sneak peek tease this at build last year, but we've got some code actually working, and this is going to come out very soon. But we're adding source control integration into File Explorer. So, yeah, thank you. So this does look like regular File Explorer, except the columns are a bit different. You can see that we now have last change message as well as last author name, the version status as well. If I change some of the files, it would say untracked, staged, committed, etc. And then you can also add other columns as well, depending on the information that you want at a glance. So this is really handy for just keeping tabs on your repositories, especially if you don't want to open the editor to figure out what's going on and what you have checked out.
Yeah, that's super helpful. What about like branch information? I feel like I always get lost on what branch I'm on.
Yeah, I also forget which branch I'm on. And we have over here on the bottom of the taskbar, we've got your branch name. So thank you, yeah. As you can see, I've made the blunder of committing on main. I'm sure a lot of you have done this. So this is hopefully going to help prevent that, so you can see when you're on main and when you're on your branch that's checked out. But yes, this is coming very soon, and there's actually a demo session right after this upstairs by Ethan and Jordy on our team, and they're going to do even more cool things with File Explorer and Git integration. Cool, so I will actually jump out back to DevHome because this is going to be powered by DevHome. So yes, there are changes to Windows being made, but the underlying goo of how it works is going to be in DevHome itself. And that's going to be over in the new Windows customization feature. So the inspiration for Windows customization is to give developers agency over their machine and an easy UI that they can make all the toggles and tweaks. We've seen a lot of scripts online of people changing registry keys and specific Windows settings, and we want to make that experience a little bit easier so you don't need to script it. And we can do that by providing these sorts of settings here in Windows customization. So this is the first, like V0 of Windows customization, but we want to have a lot more features here, a lot more settings that you can toggle. And we're starting with File Explorer settings. So some of these have been hidden from File Explorer settings, and now we're bringing them back to the forefront so that you can modify them as well. But we want to add a lot more features here also. And of course, we are open source, and we would love to know what you want to see here. And if you want to contribute to this is also contributing to Windows, which is even cooler. So feel free to hop on our GitHub, and we'll provide links as well at the end if you want to see more things here. Other fun things on this page, aside from File Explorer settings, we have this quiet background processes feature. This is an experimental feature that we're releasing in DevHome, and its intent is to help quiet down the processes on your machine that aren't relevant for development. So you can start a session and then start developing, and the session can last for up to 2 hours. And then it'll give you an analytic summary of the processes that are intended for development and the processes that aren't. And then you can see which ones need to be quieted down so that you can give your CPU resources to where it matters, which is where you're compiling and building your code. So our goal is to help you get the most performance out of your machine so that you can continue to work quickly and stay in your flow.
That's super helpful. I feel like I'm usually switching around to like a variety of laptops with a variety of specs, and just to be able to, quiet things down so I can have as much performance as possible is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of performance, we are improving the dev drive experience for you. If you're unfamiliar with dev drives, we released them last year at Build, and it's a new file type drive meant for development. And it runs on REFS, which is the resilient file system, compared to the C drive, which runs on NTFS. And it's intended to give you a performance boost specifically with I/O scenarios. So that's going to be like NPM. I know you've used it
I
recently.
clone all of my repos into a dev drive.
Yeah, so cloning is actually really fast, especially if you have really good internet speeds. But the first time I tried cloning from DevHome, and I thought DevHome was broken, and of course I was going to go file a bug because it was instant. And it brought everything down. It was so fast, and it blew me away. So definitely try this, especially internet speeds may vary, but the I/O process is a whole lot faster in a dev drive. And we can help you optimize your dev drive with Dev Drive Insights. So this is a new feature also in this Windows customization page in DevHome, and this is going to give you a little bit of information about your dev drive, but then also give you suggestions on how to improve performance within that drive. So the first set of suggestions that we're providing has to do with package caches. So the performance boost is going to come from moving your package caches from your C drive over into your D drive or dev drive. I usually use the D drive. And then when you move that over, you should see a performance boost. So Dev Drive Insights is going to help you get the most out of your dev drives by providing these sorts of suggestions. And we're planning to add even more suggestion types to this page in the future. But we're starting with package caches as a first go. And dev drive, we're improving anyway and trying to make it even faster. So yes, we're helping you optimize, but we're working on optimizing it as well. So it just is faster in general. And one thing that we're doing is we've added block cloning. So I'm actually gonna close this tab. If you open a tab in Terminal, a pane in Terminal, you can close it with Control-Shift-W. If you hit Control-Shift-W again, it's gonna close the whole window as a fun tip. But I'm going to head over to my PowerShell, and I'm going to demonstrate how fast copying is in a dev drive right now. So I'm going to head over to my desktop, if I can type correctly. And in my command palette, you can customize the commands in the terminal command palette also. You can open this with Control-Shift-P, or it's in the drop-down menu. And I've added a little command here, copy large file for demo. And I have in the settings of terminal to input this text specifically, so you can actually make commands and run, git commit really quickly if you have it in your command palette. But I have the measure command for copying a VHDX file into the same folder called demo copy. And I can show you here on the desktop, this demo file is about 10 gigs in size. So this should take a little bit of time. And this is just the traditional copy that exists on Windows today. So there isn't any performance improvements here. This is just how long it should generally take to copy about 10 gigs of an item. So we're going to let this run. It usually takes about 13 seconds. Okay, we've run this a few times. And I'm going to run that same command over in my dev drive. So if I actually show you here in dev drive, I have the same file because I wanted to show this again, but still 10 gigabits, and then I'll head over to D drive. And I can run the same thing again. How long do we think this is going to be? 5 seconds?
Yeah, probably 3? Half the time.
Yeah. Any show of hands? 2 seconds? Half a second? I like that idea. All right, let's see. Less than that. And you can see it actually copied. So what's happening here in block cloning is that it's copying the metadata and it's not copying bit by bit, which happens over on the C drive. So this is really helpful, especially when copying like a node modules folder. That is going to be so much faster in a dev drive, and we're just giving little improvements to make things even faster when working in a dev drive. So I know you have some command line things.
Yeah.
You want to come?
Yeah, I'd love to
demonstrate?
show those off.
Yeah.
So, as we mentioned earlier, we have a lot of improvements with your environments and configuring your environments and things like that. So let me change back to my sandbox drive. So what I'm going to show right now is I'm going to run WinGet configure, if I can type, hold on. It's harder than you think. WinGet configure, and then I'm going to run this sandbox DSC configuration file. So what this configuration file is going to do, it's going to start by pulling down the resources and modules that I need, and then it's going to kick off the creation of a Windows sandbox, and then it's going to, on the logon, run a PowerShell script that is then going to bootstrap WinGet in the sandbox, and then it's going to verify the version, and then it's going to run an additional configuration file to configure that environment. And I'm going to do all of that in just this one command. So running the WinGet configure, I'm going to accept these agreements. It's very powerful stuff, hence the big warning, and kick that off. So in just a moment, you'll see that Sandbox is getting started. It will launch. It's going to launch a PowerShell, as I mentioned, and then from there, it's going to run that PowerShell script that's then going to run the configuration file. So let me show you the files that we're actually running within here. So we have our sandbox.dsc.yml file that I'm running here. As you can see, the resource that we are running here is the Windows sandbox.dsc resource. And so this just takes in values similar to a .wsb file or Windows sandbox file. If you're familiar with that, that allows you to configure the creation of your sandbox as you're running it. And then we also have this bit of logon command that is going to be running a PowerShell script. That PowerShell script is, as I mentioned, bootstrapping WinGet, and then is going to be running this additional configuration file and accepting the agreements on my behalf, so I don't need to touch it again. And then finally, we're going to be running this additional configuration file that's going to show the seconds in the clock and enable dark mode.
This is really cool because you can, if you already have a PowerShell script, you can then call it in a WinGet DSC file and then wrap it with all of the desired state configuration stuff without needing to go modify that PowerShell script, right?
Yeah, yeah. And earlier I showed off, a configuration file that allows you to clone repositories and install applications, and this allows you to do all of that and your Windows settings as well. So as you can see, I now have seconds in the clock, and my sandbox is in dark mode.
Nice.
Yeah, and the other great thing about Sandbox is it's an ephemeral environment, and so it sort of gets cleaned up after we're done with it, and so it's a really great way to test configuration files that you may not want to potentially run and make changes to your machine. It's a great way to just validate that the configuration file works.
Yeah, that's a really great point about testing config files, because I definitely don't want to be installing like 6 different things if I need to actually apply it somewhere else. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have one more demo for WinGet configuration, which is WinGet configure export. So we actually have a new feature right now that is going to be coming out in the June release of WinGet, and it is a feature that allows you to export the settings of your application. And so what it does is you pass in the file, you pass in the package ID, and then the module and resource for that particular package, and then it generates the configuration file, exporting not just the command to install that application, but also to configure its settings. So let me show you the file that I just created. So here we can see that this configuration file is not only going to install App Installer, which has WinGet But also it's going to configure all of my experimental features, such as the configuration export feature, as well as update, my personal preferences like the rainbow progress bar.
Cool. So WinGet configuration can export apps and packages, repos, Windows, oh, not export, sorry, can configure apps and packages, repos, Windows settings, and also an application's settings.
Yep.
I feel like there's nothing left.
Yeah, it does it all.
Why did you close that?
Yeah, well,
But I have command line stuff.
Ooh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I have a really
fine.
bad habit
It's
of
fine.
just closing windows when I'm done.
Practicing for this has been really fun. Let me open terminal back up. If you haven't seen this is PowerToys Run also. If you have PowerToys installed, this is open with Alt space. And I'm gonna open terminal back up because Sharla closed it.
Sorry.
I'm definitely a like hundreds of tabs kind of gal, so
Oh, no. That's too stressful.
yeah. But luckily for me and for you, one thing added to terminal is the content buffer restore feature. So yes, this window was closed, but now with buffer content restored with this new feature, everything is here, including the output. So I know like if you hit up arrow, you can get back to the stuff that you've ran, but now you can see the output of what you've run, which is even better.
This is great. This is going to save my life.
And if you want to enable this setting, you can head over to the terminal settings, go to the startup section, and when you have when terminal starts, you can change this to open windows from a previous session, and then this should restore that content for you, which is going to be really handy, especially for Sharla. So this wouldn't be a demo from our team if we didn't have some command line improvements. And the first thing that I'd love to show is actually environment path refresh. And to demonstrate that and get a little bit more into it, I need Git. I don't have Git. We're gonna install it right here on stage. And I'm gonna grab it from WinGet. And I think everyone knows this kind of flow. You install Git, and then you have to close your terminal because you type Git again, and command prompt or PowerShell says, hey, I don't know what that is. Can you restart? Actually, I don't even think it says, can you restart? It just says, I don't know. So what we've done with environment path refresh is we'll automatically update your path when you install an executable, and you don't need to restart your terminal window. You can just type Git, get started right away, and stay in your flow. So we're gonna actually let this run for a second, but I do have one other command line feature we've added that I think some of you might have heard of already, and that is Sudo for Windows. We released Sudo for Windows recently, and you can now use it in Windows Insider Program. This machine is running on the Windows Insider Program Canary channel, so you can get this today. And it's in the For Developers section of your settings. So you just have to enable Sudo, and you're able to start running Sudo in your terminal right away. And for those who aren't familiar, Sudo is a command from the Linux realm that lets you run a command elevated without having the window elevated. So let's actually show that off right now. Over here on PowerShell, I have a command that I know requires administrator, and that is winget source reset force. It says, hey, this command requires admin privileges. Okay, great. Traditionally, I'd have to close this window or open a new terminal window as admin. Now I don't have to do that. I can just run the same command and put sudo in front of it. I can see that the command executes. I get that UAC prompt, and I'm in my flow, and I don't have to keep restarting. And what's also great is that this window is still not elevated. So if you don't want to run in admin the whole time, no sweat, you could just use sudo instead. And then heading back over to make sure that the environment path refresh has kicked in. I have Git installed, I haven't restarted, there's no magic. And I'll type Git, and now I have Git without having to restart. So this is gonna save a lot of time, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love being able to stay in the flow, and this might help break me from my habit of closing windows.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that it'll save me even if I do.
Yeah, exactly. So I know you have a sneak peek to share.
Yeah,
Maybe we can go show that.
So we can hop back over here. So I want to introduce our next sneak peek, which is the Visual Studio extension for Windows Sandbox. So hopefully this will start in just a second. So with this, we are developing a C# photo viewing app that has a C++ component to get additional information about the photo. So in this example, it gets the file size on the disk. So here we show that when debugging the project on a local device, everything behaves as expected. The app launches and you're able to see that. And now I want to test that I've included all my dependencies. Here I've got the extension installed already. So I can go ahead and start the sandbox. You'll see the remote debugger start within it, and then I can go back to Visual Studio and F5 to target the sandbox. So once we get into there, you'll see that the project gets deployed to the remote device, and it appears to come up properly in just a second. But then once I click to retrieve the file size, there's an error. And so we run into a runtime error of DLL not found, meaning one or more of my dependencies is not on the sandbox. So since we have a C++ component, we need to ensure that the package includes the vclib dependency. So we'll go to the package manifest and add the correct one, and then we can go back and restart the debugger session in the sandbox. So we'll redeploy and test that flow one more time. And so then when the package comes up, we are then able to see that everything worked as expected, and we've identified all of our missing dependencies. So, yeah. So
I was gonna say, this is really handy, especially if you work on a lot of different projects and you have random things installed that might end up being dependencies for other things. Being able to test in a clean environment is gonna be really nice, especially if, when you send it out to customers and you need to install that app, they likely won't have those dependencies. This is a good checker for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So the Visual Studio extension for Windows Sandbox allows you to, quickly and easily test on a clean device and, test changes that would potentially impact your machine. And the extension will be published later this summer. So that's kind of all of our demos, but we really just want to show off that we are listening and committed to making improvements throughout the entire developer lifecycle. So as a reminder, these are all of the things that we shared about today. Feel free to take a picture of the slide because we did cover quite a lot. As a reminder, we started off with those PowerToys and had that project that launched instantly and, set your layout where you wanted it to come back to, including that app state. And so it was nice to be able to just jump back into your project. In Dev Home, we have a ton of new features that we encourage you to go check out. It's got the environments that allows you to connect, configure, and create new development environments as you need them for your workflow. As well as those quiet background processes, the experimental feature. We've got WinGet configure export that allows you to take your app settings and export that into a configuration file so that you can apply it to any environment that you're working in without having to fuss around with those settings files, as well as command line improvements like the Sudo for Windows and the environment path refresh. So Git just works and I don't have to close my windows. And even if I do, that terminal buffer content restore will save me. So tons of stuff. So what's up next, Kayla?
Yeah, so if you want to try any of this out, we have tons of documentation. All of our utilities are open on GitHub. So we've got docs for all of these. We also have repositories for all of these. So if you want to contribute, if you want to add code to Windows, that would be in Dev Home and Terminal repositories. You can head over there. And of course, if you think of anything after this, you can always reach out to us on X, and our handles are here as well. And we're the first of our team to present at Build, so there's a ton more content coming from our team. And this is the list of all of the sessions that will be after this that go into even more detail and a deeper dive into all the stuff we've shown today. So we just scratched the surface today. But these will go into more detail, and you can ask for more questions there as well. So I think with that, we can open it up for Q&A. We want to thank everyone for coming, and let us know if you have any questions. Do you have a Q&A?
Yeah, it might be a bit of a silly one. Is there a convenient way for me to periodically upgrade all my WinGet packages? I currently just run a PowerShell script in my startup folder. Is there a button for that?
Yeah. There's a not a button yet, but there is a WinGet configure upgrade all command that you can use.
Yeah. We are looking into also adding apps and packages.
Yeah, we've got a
into
couple
DevHome.
of new feature ideas actually on our GitHub, including a page that sort of is here's the current state of all of the apps on your machine, so sort of an app management experience. So you could go ahead and check that out and see if that'll kind of align with what you're asking there.
Just want to check real quick. Any virtual questions? Nope. All right, cool. Let's go to the next one.
Hi, I'm just wondering if Sudo for Windows has any like audit capabilities where like an administrator can track who used Sudo and why.
That is a great question. Oh yeah, we have people at the booth who delivered that feature, and you could definitely ask that there.
Thank you.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, and I also forgot to mention too, like if you have more questions, you can go upstairs up to level 5. And also check out the expert hub too, right?
Yep,
Yep,
Perfect.
absolutely.
we'll be there.
Cool. Question?
Yes, hello. Is the RFS feature on, can be applied to Windows build servers for ADO?
The like REFS file system?
Yes.
That's
To help out
another
builds.
great question. Yeah, we also have the experts at the booth who deliver dev drive. We're big on DevHome, if that helps, and Terminal.
All right. And that question here. All right.
Yeah, sorry, it might just be something that you can't answer if you just said about dev drive there. But with my work, we can't use dev drive because it shows up as a external drives. We've got limitations set up on that. Do you know if there's any sort of way of making it work with those sort of limitations in? Because obviously it's not actually an external drive.
I do not know that answer,
Yeah.
but I'm sure the people upstairs will definitely be able to help you.
Yeah, we'll communicate
Yeah.
that back to the rest of the team.
Any more questions? Before we ask, we have experts upstairs on the level 5.
Does the environment path refresh cover all terminal sessions or just the active one?
It should be all terminal sessions, and I think we're adding functionality for PowerShell as well. So it works in command prompt. We're going to help add it into PowerShell so then it works across all shells also.
Okay. Any questions? Oh, one more.
Is there a sandbox extension for VS Code?
For VS Code, not yet. Backlog.
It's on the backlog.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah.
Can it be higher on the backlog?
We'll pass
We'll let them
pass
know.
that along to the sandbox team. Yeah.
Yep, check it out the booth. Awesome.
Oh, I think there's one more up here.
Where? Oh, there you are.
Now that you have sudo, what about sudo bang bang?
We'll add it to the
It's on the
backlog.
Backlog.
Yeah. Yeah. The expert's in the back there,
Yeah.
so you can go bug him.
Cool.
Yeah, so we have a ton of stuff that is on our GitHub, both the DevHome and Terminal and all of these things. So if you have other like feature requests or things like that, please feel free to file issues, create a PR. We'd love to have your contributions and your upvotes for those files or features. That does really help to prioritize it when we know that that's, a need.
I think we've got one up here.
Oh,
I don't know where you,
there.
okay.
Raise your hand a little bit higher.
Thanks for running around for us.
No, we're. It's my exercise for today.
A question about the command line, terminal buffer content restore. Even after reboot the system, can we restore that? Or is there how many commands it will restore?
That's a good question. From what I've seen, it's just from from the boot that you're on, and then I think it resets on reboot, but we can confirm on the terminal side of things also.
One thing we do like to do also is Kayla, Sharla, our entire team constantly is asking to talk to you all. We do this on Twitter and other forums. Please, 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 we love talking to everyone and getting community feedback. Kayla, do you want to quickly give a little plug?
For the same thing? Oh, actually, at the booth, I remembered. We actually have a lot of conversations with all of you throughout the year, and it's part of our customer panel that we reach out to. So there's a QR code at our booth if you want to join that, because we are constantly asking questions and constantly refining. We'll show you mock-ups of things that we're thinking of, or new features in general that we've just come up with that might help solve the problem. And that feedback really helps tailor the new features that we're delivering. So if you want to be part of that group as well, there's a QR code that you can scan to join upstairs at our booth. We're in the Windows section for terminal and developer experiences. But yeah, definitely join that. Otherwise, there's also, Twitter/X. Yeah, but yeah, definitely feel free to join, or just ask us upstairs and we'll help you out.
Anyone else? Oh, one more.
Does DevHome send any telemetry outside of the machine itself?
Yeah, so we have DevHome telemetry plugged into Windows all-up telemetry. So if you have that enabled, we are sending telemetry out. And that's mostly because DevHome is a new surface for developers. This is something that we're trying to help add into the flow, but it's not part of Habit right now. So if we're able to see where people are clicking, where they're using the most features, then we can help improve those features or redesign them if things aren't acting as they should. So there is telemetry being sent, and it's all on our GitHub of what exactly we're sending, and the code is open source. If you want the specific events, you could definitely go see that. But it's part of the Windows telemetry bucket, if that helps.
Is it possible to modify what those are? So I support engineers who do software engineering in secured environments. And one of the main reasons why we can't use a lot of tooling is it sends a lot of phone home telemetry, which is explicitly disallowed.
Okay.
In the engineering that I support. So I would love for my users to be able to do all of this, but they would have problems with, even though I work internally at Microsoft, our security personnel would have issues with telemetry even being sent to MS Corporate, right? So if there's any way that can be short-circuited, or if you have endpoints that you can put up in a national or sovereign cloud where metrics stay within that boundary, that would be great, and then we could use it.
Yeah, okay. A couple ideas there. One is disabling Windows telemetry itself on the machine, and that'll disable those events. Another option could be if you fork DevHome, you could just remove those events as well, and then distribute that if you want. And then I think maybe a third option, we're adding in GPO settings so that enterprises can feel more comfortable with this, and we can have that as part of that suite of settings too.
Very cool, thank you.
Cool.
All right, awesome. I think we have time for one more.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyone? Oh, in the back.
Hi there. My question, which booth number are you on the top floor? There's a lot of Microsoft booths up there. Do you know the booth number?
36? Something 36.
When you walk in the back right, it says Windows Copilot. We are right there, just to the right of the build stage. M36 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think M36.
Yeah.
If anything, I think there's a directory upstairs too. You can also ask the question too. Just need to know the name of the booth.
Yeah. It's
Windows Copilot.
Yeah. Development tools, yeah.
Development tools. Cool. Anyone else? Hands raised. No? Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's going to be probably the last one.
Does DevHome interact with Intune as well? Because my company mostly pushes out apps through Intune, and can they add a DevHome configuration to push out with that?
Yeah, so we're looking at more enterprise scenarios, but right now the app installation process utilizes what the WinGet configurations are on your machine. So if you've got Intune and WinGet configured, all of the like GPO settings and things like that will work through DevHome.
Sweet. All right, that concludes our session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. And yep, don't forget to visit the experts upstairs on the 5th floor and scan QR code.